One evening, as the sun set behind the trees of Jetauna Grove, the Buddha sat quietly with his monks. The gentle sound of birds and the rustling leaves filled the air. The monks sensed that Buddha was about to speak and leaned in closer. The Buddha opened his eyes and said, "Today, I will share the story of Nanda, a man who was lost in sadness but found peace through solitude." The monks listened eagerly and the Buddha began. In the kingdom of Kosala, there was a man named Nanda. He was a weaver who spent his days making cloth for merchants. They paid him very little and he lived in a small, broken-down hut at the edge of the village. Nanda felt lonely and unhappy. His wife had passed away and he had no children. He often watched others with their families and friends and felt bitter. "Why is my life so empty?" he would think. One stormy evening, while Nanda worked at his loom, rain began to pour and the wind tore at his roof. Water leaked into his house, soaking his work. He was so angry and sad that he shouted, "Why must my life be like this?" Unable to bear it any longer, he left his home and wandered into the forest, thinking he could escape his pain. Nanda wandered deep into the forest, eating only fruits and roots to survive. At first, he was scared and lonely, but slowly he started noticing the quiet beauty around him, the sound of birds, the rustle of leaves, and the trickling streams. One evening, Nanda saw an old hermit meditating under a tree. The hermit looked peaceful, as though nothing in the world troubled him. Nanda approached him and asked, "O wise one, I have run away from the world, but I still feel unhappy. How can I be free from this sadness?" The hermit smiled gently and said, "Stay here with me, watch and learn." Nanda stayed, watching the hermit's simple life. The hermit taught him to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and pay attention to his thoughts. Over time, Nanda began to feel calmer, but sometimes he still felt angry and sad. One day, the hermit said, "Nanda, you hold on to your sadness as if it were precious to you. To find peace, you must let it go." Nanda asked back, "If I let go of my sadness, what will I have left back?" The hermit replied, "You will have clarity like a clear sky after a storm." That night, Nanda sat alone under a big tree. He decided not to move until he understood what the hermit meant. As he sat in silence, memories of his life came to him. His losses, his loneliness, and his anger. At first, these thoughts scared him, but then, as he stayed still, he began to see his life like a piece of cloth he had woven. Every thread, his joys and sorrows, was part of the pattern that made him who he was. As the sun rose the next morning, Nanda felt a deep peace. He no longer hated his loneliness. Instead, he saw it as a gift, a chance to grow. Nanda returned to the village, but he wasn't the same man. He no longer worked as a weaver of cloth, but became a teacher who helped others find peace. The Buddha finished his story and looked at the monks. He said, Nanda's story teaches us that being alone is not something to fear. When we embrace solitude with mindfulness, it can help us see the truth. It is in quiet moments that we discover the light within us. The monks bowed in gratitude, feeling inspired. As the grove fell silent, many of them felt their own hearts growing lighter, ready to seek the light of wisdom in their own solitude. You see, many of us fear solitude and try to avoid it at all costs. We often view being alone as a burden, something to run from or fill with distractions. Whether it's endless scrolling through our phones, losing ourselves in work, or clinging to unhealthy relationships. We avoid facing the quiet moments that bring us closer to ourselves. However, this avoidance only deepens our discontent. Solitude, when embraced, is not something to fear but a powerful opportunity for growth and peace. It allows us to step back, reflect on our lives, and understand our emotions without the noise of the outside world. Through stillness, we can let go of anger, sadness, or fear and discover clarity, much like a stormy sky clearing to reveal the sun. Instead of running from loneliness, we can transform it into a gift, one that helps us grow, find wisdom, and connect with the peace within. Remember, solitude, far from being a punishment, is a path to your personal growth. Immerse yourself into the gift of solitude, and it will illuminate you in so many ways that you cannot even think of right now. Thank you so much for joining Buddha Sunshine, and stay blessed.